American Water, that's the last piece of our sewer closeout, so Eric?
So, just to explain to the public what happened here is this action was already taken during the sewer sale. As part of that, transaction, a subdivision had to happen to annex a small piece of ground to the pumping station property so that the access and all the improvements were on the property that we were transferring. We simply put it on here, as really a belt and suspenders to make sure, all the action is taken to transfer this property, and that we authorize the board members or the chairman to sign the deed and transfer it over. As part of that transaction, there was actually an escrow amount held off during the sewer purchase that the township will then receive once this property is transferred. So we're really just essentially transferring an existing pumping station to Pennsylvania American Water.
Questions for solicitor, for the commissioners?
Just one additional comment, it was previously an easement, but as part of the sale, we had to subdivide and transfer that property.
And that subdivision was acted on a couple
Yes.
meetings ago, and then since then, we've been drafting the deed, getting it all ready in a form, ready for action.
Correct, yep, yeah, the commissioners did formally approve the Hoffman subdivision plan.
And this is the last piece of
Yes.
the 10 grand, so, okay. So, need a motion on approval of deed transfer.
I'll make the motion.
Hearing a motion, is there a second? Hearing a second. Just further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Old business B. This is the Moyer Road project. Michelle or Chad?
You good? Okay. So, Chad did advertise the, 2024 paving project for West Moyer Road, which does not include a straightening of the road. The low bidder is Saxon Sons in the amount of $245,222.56. The solicitor has reviewed all the bids and documentation and is ready for you to award the bid to Saxon Sons for $245,222.56.
Is this simply just coating it, putting another coat on top of it?
This is the code in place recycling option
Okay,
two
good.
that the board was in favor.
Okay,
Yes.
just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We are modifying the curbs a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
the white flags are there.
Yeah, I knew that from the,
Okay, need a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Hearing a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Hearing a second, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Old business C, this is escrow release. That's the prosecutor code, it's in your packet, you see, the engineer's review letter on there as well, and the actual funding in the back part of that. Michelle, anything to add to this?
Note this is standard escrow release for work that the developer has completed, and the engineer has reviewed and recommended the release for $149,747.95. So we need a motion to approve that escrow release.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to release $149,747.95.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Hearing a second, further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carries. Old business D.
So this one relates to the same development. If you recall at prior meetings, the developer switched their escrow from a set-aside account to a bond. Everything's in place now for the bond, the modification agreement's done, the original bond's in the township hands, everything's been done for that transfer, so what we're doing now is we're leasing the set-aside account, so we don't need two forms of financial security. We replaced the set-aside account with the bond, so now we're just releasing the bond.
Need a motion to release a letter of credit?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
You're in the second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carries. New business A. This is the repair piece for the new property we bought. Michelle, you have any more to add to this one?
As Don mentioned, this was, Chad was proactive in getting this issues addressed, so this covers any immediate threats or concerns at the property. And I just need the board to ratify that. I authorized it as an emergency, but you guys have to ratify it now. Thank you.
I'll need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Hearing a motion, is there a second? I'll second it. Discussion.
Quick discussion, I think we need a new name for this property. It's probably one of the nicest properties we have in our inventory. And I wish, I didn't know Greg wasn't gonna be here, but, you know, maybe we can have open space, you know, do a poll. These kids that did this great project down, at the Arboretum. But I think something better than 2290 Gilbertsville Road. And again, we asked at the closing, the people who owned it, what they called it, and they didn't have a name. I mean, they called it Nana's house, so, I don't think that's gonna be appropriate for.
And also, we're asking them for any historical stuff that they have on the house as well.
Also, I'm sorry, just one last thing, the house it's very interesting going in there. It is a big open space in there, and, nice meeting room area could be put in there. I was very surprised after, looking at it for the second time, but that's not really towards this discussion. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. I just have a couple questions, because I don't see a recommendation from Open Space to do this, nor thinking that there was no recommendation from Open Space to even purchase the property with Open Space funds. And from what it says on our website, that is the job of the Open Space Board. I looked back through their minutes and their agendas, there's no recording of a vote that they took to do anything. So I guess I'm asking is, what is the end game with this property? Is it protected, preserved open space? So, and I get it, it's a minimal amount that we're spending to secure the house, and I agree that if it's gonna be there, we need, what are we gonna do with the house? Are we just, you know, I mean, obviously there's been some discussion about it, I don't understand. So if anybody wants to answer that, or send me an email.
Well, first of all, any type of land purchase is gonna be discussed as you know, in executive session, and Open Space did discuss that, and they came to us with that recommendation to buy it. They wanted to do it, and also they're looking at the name, they're looking what to do with the property as well.
But
And
shouldn't that have
just a
been a
second,
recommendation?
Just a second. We're also looking for the defensive piece for overdevelopment, so we bought the 10 acres. So go ahead.
That should have, I mean, they're making recommendations today on their agenda, on their report. Something like purchasing open space and keeping a house and making repairs to it, just for, it gives me a very weird feeling as if what they're doing doesn't matter, because it does say here, Open Space Recreation Board, this is right on our website. Their responsibility is to prepare and present recommendations to the Board of Commissioners on proposed ordinances, resolutions, and policies that would impact on the acquisition and use of open space within the township. I understand that they would have, of course, that they would have discussed this in an executive session, but as we do, we come out of executive session to vote on what we want to move forward or to make the recommendation for us. I'm just feeling open space is being overlooked in some of the more important decisions, which is why we have this board. And that's my comment.
Sure, I'll fill in the gap there. In January, and the time may be a little bit off, but in January, Greg came to us and said this property was for sale, and I kind of said, I drove by the property myself, I saw it was for sale. He said, we need to try to get it. We we met in executive session, we all agreed this was a good idea. We didn't agree to buy it, but it was a good idea. Based on Open Space's recommendation, we pursued the property, put in a full price offer, and we lost it to a developer. Or no, I'm sorry, we didn't get the offer in. It was already sold by the time our offer got there to most likely a developer, and apparently it was a developer. They decided not to develop, and we were there literally, we got notified by our real estate agent that the developer was gonna cancel the deal, I don't know what you would call it, but he said, we're coming in immediately with our offer. And I guess 3 other offers came in with ours, and they did pick ours. But we did have 3 executive sessions about the property. I know Kathy, you were absent for one, you were somewhere. We had 3 executive meetings that I recall. Greg was at the property with us going through the checklist, what's gotta be fixed. My concern was water was pouring in the basement. But Greg was there the whole time. He kinda did that in his life. That was, he did, said this, the soffits. But, and we had to move fast because water was coming in there. And again, as you pointed out, Kathy, this is $1,200. And we don't know what we're gonna do with the house. The house looks like it's the era of the halfway house. It could be nice stone under there, we don't know. I know Trace is aggressively looking at, some of the historic stuff on it. But I'll probably never see it, but maybe restore the house. It's one of the, as the last owners told us, there was 7 farms between the halfway house and the post office. This is the last farm that was there, and, and we got it, and, I don't know what we're gonna do with it, but it is ours, we bought it, we preserved it to use how we wanna use it. I suspect it's probably gonna be a meadow right now until they can figure out something, maybe some more parking for the baseball across the street. That's kind of up to open space, but I think we did our due diligence. 3 exec meetings I think was adequate, and I know you missed that one, but it was very short, so. Yeah.
And again, you're filling in gaps for me, and I've learned more right now than I've been told anything about this whole project. So obviously, you said, we're gonna preserve it, wasn't part of that discussion.
Well,
Wasn't part of, I'm just stating the fact, that's
sure,
all. I wasn't part of that discussion. I could say, sitting in the gap with me is Dave. He wasn't part of that discussion, were you?
Yeah, I was here for all 3 meetings.
For all 3 meetings, but
Yeah.
you knew that they were gonna preserve it? Preserve the building?
Well,
or
let's,
move forward?
the building, there's 2 preservations, the building,
Mhm.
and, which we don't know, okay, cause there's just no way we're gonna be able to afford that ourselves, and I think we're looking for grant money. But the other preservation is of the ground, and we preserve it for our use, like every other piece of open space that we have is preserved for our use. Now, there are some pieces of open space that have further restrictions on them than just for our use. But again, that's what I want to clearly understand that yes, it's preserved, but for what we want to do. And it'll be something that is in line with open space benefits.
If I could just chime in too.
Sorry about
I don't want anyone from the public to come away from this saying all these decisions were made at executive session. This was actually also on, I believe, the last agenda as a public hearing and meeting to approve the purchase and do all. I just want to make sure the public is aware that
Yeah,
this was on the agenda as a part of the public meetings for action as well.
Okay, and I just wanna make it clear that I'm looking for recommendations from the Open Space Board. That's all I'm saying. They have a bigger part to play than just naming a meadow or approving other little things like that. They have a bigger job to do. That's all I'm saying.
Did we get a motion on this, Michelle?
You have a motion and a second.
I think I made the motion if I
Dave
recall.
makes the second.
I need a second, okay. Further discussion.
These monies are just to keep the reserve, or is that later deterioration?
Could you use the microphone,
Immediate threats
please?
and concerns,
Right.
that's what the repairs were for.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Motion carried.